Hello, bonjour. My name is Paulo de Castro Reis, and I'm the Executive Director of CCBC. Welcome to the first Brazilian Week CCBC Online Festival, a digital event organized by the Chamber of Commerce Brasil-Canadá, also known as CCBC, in partnership with the Brazilian Embassy in Ottawa, the Brazilian consulates in Toronto, Montreal, and Vancouver, and sponsored by Air Canada. The festival presents more than 20 webinars covering three main content areas: business opportunities, innovation, and Brazilian culture. Besides, the Brazilian Week website offers free access to more than 200 cultural contents. I'd like to start by calling Bayard Lucas de Lima, Director at Brookfield Brazil and Coordinator of the Investments and Infrastructure Committee at CCBC, to moderate this panel about investment opportunities in Brazil. Welcome, Bayard.
Thank you, Paulo. A great job, as always. I have a great pleasure to be the moderator of the panel of investment opportunities here in Brazil, and especially honored to have Brazil's Minister for Mines and Energy, Admiral Bento Albuquerque, with us. I also would like to mention the presence of our Brazil ambassador in Canada, Pedro Borio. Great honor to have you. He's continued to be in our audience today. As member of our panel, we have today Elise Racicot, Canadian Counselor and Senior Trade Commissioner for Brazil, in Brazil, representing the private sector. We have the country manager of Armstrong in Brazil, Hilton Nascimento, and Clóvis Amorim, Senior Vice President for McCain in Brazil. So for us to start, I would like to call Elise Racicot for her opening words.
Thank you so much, Bayard. Deixa-me me juntar também para agradecer a presença do ilustre senhor ministro. É realmente uma honra de ter a presença de vocês aqui hoje conosco. And thanks to everyone who is listening in and who's participating today, and to the co-panelists who are here, as well as to the CCBC and to the Brazilian Embassy and Consulate for hosting us this week. Having with us Minister Albuquerque, I think it's worth noting that mining actually has been for a long time, and it continues to be one of the priority sector for Canada, where we are present through investment and trade, but also joint innovation, as well as policy initiatives such as the Women in Mining Action Plan that we presented earlier this week as part of this festival, or the Towards Sustainable Mining Principles, for instance. There are currently many Canadian mining sector subsidiaries actively working in Brazil, and similarly, there are Brazilian investments of importance in this sector in Canada. But our bilateral investments do not stop at this sector only, far from it. Many Canadian portfolio investors have long-term investment in a diversity of industries that include water and sanitation, renewable energy, road concession, logistics, commercial real estate, agriculture, manufacturing, technology, well, and a lot more. So similarly, Brazilian investments in Canada are diverse in size and in terms of industries. The most recent numbers that we have available show that Brazil's stock of foreign direct investment in Canada was standing at $15.4 billion Canadian in 2019, making it the 10th largest investor in Canada, so quite significant. That includes investors like Ambev, Gerdau, JBS, 3G, Vale, Votorantim, but also smaller companies increasingly taking an interest in having a presence in Canada in tech sectors such as life science or AI or pharmaceutical, that when they consider Canada as a place to establish an international presence for R&D, but also for access to global markets. On the other side, Canada's stock of foreign direct investment in Brazil is standing at a relatively similar number, with $12.2 billion Canadian in 2019, making Brazil Canada's 15th largest destination for investment, as well as a significant investor in Brazil. In fact, maybe a little known fact, and these numbers are from 2017, Canadian investments in Brazil contribute to over 54,000 jobs in the country. So, so quite a significant presence. And our host for this session, Brookfield, definitely is a testimony of this long-lasting interest, with a presence since 1899, if I'm correct, in the country. So just a few years after our first Canadian trade presence here in 1866. Large investors include the likes of Brookfield, but also many of our pension funds, like Ontario Teachers, la Caisse de dépôt, PSP Investments, and other mining companies, as I've mentioned before, that include Yamana Gold, Kinross, and others. Engineering groups like SNC-Lavalin, Hatch, and others. In fact, most Canadian firms who end up doing business in Brazil have some form of local investment or joint venture as a means to facilitate their entry in the market. That includes also a lot of companies that are innovative, like Uptel or CQPI, CAE, manufacturing companies like Bombardier, Pratt & Whitney Canada, and Martin Ray. Even the bikes that we see around Sao Paulo, you know, made by PBSC together with Banco Itaú. So many other, and the list is long. So Canada and Brazil share a long history of investment relations. And I think they're getting stronger every year as per the numbers that we see. Investment relations are about trust, commitment, and collaboration. An investment is a long-term project, and engaging in such an endeavor is about believing in positive outcomes. It's about trust, and it's about a shared future vision for the future. Our current negotiations for a Canada-Mercosur Free Trade Agreement could provide an even stronger framework to grow these relations further. The Government of Canada is committed to promoting a progressive trade agenda, recognizing that trade policies need to be to respond and contribute to the promotion of the general economic, social, and environmental issues of all countries involved. And I believe that this is a vision that is shared by our Canadian investors in Brazil. Finally, I'd like to mention that, in my opinion, Brazil and Canada do have a lot in common. We're both countries formed by people from all over the world. We're multicultural. We welcome people regardless of their cultural heritage, religion, or beliefs. We're also two countries with rich natural resources, large territories, and a shared Americanity, you know, from one side of the continent to the other. We have close science, technology, and innovation relations, education ties, and overall people-to-people ties, with each year more students, tourists, researchers, innovators, business people, workers, and investors, building new bridges that can contribute to our long-term relationships, and therefore to growing together our bilateral investments. So without further ado, I wish to everybody that you have a great panel today, and I look forward to our discussion. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Elise. I have the toughest job now is to try to summarize all the achievements from Admiral Bento Albuquerque, our keynote speaker. As a summary, Mr. Albuquerque is a PhD of political science, an MBA from Getúlio Vargas, an international management from COPEAD. He has been a United Nations military observer during the Bosnia-Sarajevo conflict, was responsible for the nuclear development and Navy, and most interesting, former commander of Brazil's submarine forces, having command 2 major Brazilian submarines. I will not talk about that, otherwise we will talk the rest of the day about this experience. No? So without further delay, Minister, great honor, good to have you with us.
Thank you very much for your kind words. I promise that I will speak a little bit slower than Ms. Elise. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am glad to virtually welcome you all to Brazil for this informal and important talk. Before I start my presentation, I would like to present my team, to introduce you my team that is accompanying me this afternoon. On my right side, I have Mrs. Lilia Sant'Agostino, Deputy Secretary for Geology, Mining, and Mineral Transformation. Mr. Rodrigo Limp, Secretary for Electric Energy, and Ambassador Paulo Pacheco, Head of the International Relations Advisory Unit. On my left side, I have Mr. Elvio, Deputy Secretary for Energy Planning and Development. Mr. José Mauro, Secretary for Oil, Natural Gas, and Biofuels. And after him, the new head of the International Relations Advisory Unit, Mr. Christian Vargas. Let's start the presentation. First, let us exchange our views on Brazil's energy and mining sectors. The idea is to identify current and new areas for investments on a COVID-19 and post-COVID-19 scenario. I also intend to give you a glimpse on how energy investment decisions are taken in Brazil. In order to do that, I am happy to share with you actions that our government is taking in order to cope with the pandemic. Clear signs of our economic recovery, sectoral indicators, and ongoing reforms. The role of planning in our energy and mining sectors. Upcoming opportunities in 2020 and 2021. Then we will head to the question and answer section. We are managing and looking ahead the pandemic with good governance, method, and procedures. The federal government created a committee to monitor impact on the economy. At the Ministry of Mines and Energy, we established 3 sectoral committees, and the presidency designed a comprehensive recovery program. All sectors are showing signs of resilience. 3 of the outcomes I am glad to announce are uninterrupted power supply. 10 million households that use less than 220 kilowatt-hour a month were free of charge for 3 months. The power sector kept its liquidity. Consumption rose from minus 13% in April to 0.2% in August. 2 of our generation plants, Itaipu Hydro and Angra 2 Nuclear, beat their records in 2020. Generation scaling factor was properly tackled by Congress. Second, guaranteed supply of fuels. The whole chain is being monitored. Consumption of gasoline and ethanol fell significantly, but has been resumed. Consumption of LP gas rose in households. Third, mining activities preserved. We managed to declare mining as an essential service for the economy, taking into account that mineral goods are at the base of our industry. We made arrangements to extend administrative timeframes in a reasonable manner. Private sector donations to tackle the pandemic rose up to $200 million. By caring for the health of our sectors, our actions focus on the health of our citizens. We had a huge decrease of power consumption at the beginning of the pandemic compared to 2019. And now we observe that the numbers came back to the consumption level of last year with a small increase. On the other hand, we see that defaults on payments progressively decline in the last 120 days and are back to regular levels. In fact, it represents a clear sign of recovery. For oil, gas, and biofuels, we have similar trends. Demand for fuels increased, except for jet fuel with very low demand still. And for LP gas, with increased demand due to social distancing and home office. All the other fuels are coming back to a regular consumption, including natural gas. Biodiesel beat its record in amount traded and financial transactions. Petrograd reached a historical record in exports, 1 million barrels a day in crude oil, fuel oil, and bunker oil exports last April. Sectoral indicators and ongoing reforms. Brazil was and still is on the right track for opening markets and attracting national and foreign investments. According to our design strategies developed since President Bolsonaro's inauguration in January 2019, as shown by our sectoral indicators. I will mention to you some figures about our performance in 2019, and then I will introduce 4 of the most comprehensive ongoing reforms in the Brazilian economy, in the energy and mining sectors. The modernization of our power sector, the new natural gas markets, Petrobras divestments, the mining and development program. International partnerships. Brazil is on the radar of investors. The latest power bidding rounds attracted more than 10 countries. For transmission lines, as many as 10 countries and third companies were involved in a competition. In oil and gas, 9 countries participated in the open acreage, concession, and sharing rounds. In the mining sector, we held our first bidding round on mining rights in 50 years. Our regulatory environment is being updated to attract more foreign companies to Brazil. 35% of the total foreign capital invested in Brazil in 2019 were concentrated in mines and energy. In both transmission and generation, we achieved the best results since 2011. We got an average of 6% of negative goodwill in transmission lines and of 42% in power generation greenfields projects. As much as 94% of investments were in oil and gas, the concession model exceeded our expectations, thanks to the premium and the results in bonus signature, a record in Brazil. 50% of signature bonus in the oil and gas auctions in 2019 were directed to Brazil. We managed to have $17 billion in signature bonus. For the coming years, investments of as much as $83 billion for oil and gas, $3.6 billion for the power sector, and $51 million in mining are expected due to contracts derived from the last year bidding rounds. Now, allow me to give you an overview of the Brazilian power system. Almost 176,000 megawatts of installed capacity, almost 158,000 kilometers of transmission lines, 85 million consumer units, power generation of 554,000 gigawatt hour, which corresponds to 50% of South America. Brazil has one of the cleanest power mixes in the world, 83% renewable. In OECD countries, this rate is as low as 28%. In the world in general, it is 27%. In non-OECD countries, 25%. We are promoting the modernization of our power sector. It is a comprehensive market and regulatory reform. 2, increase consumers' power of choice. Ensure supply adequacy, even with much higher shares of wind, solar, and distributed energy resource. Better accommodate new technologies and business models enabled by digital revolution, including energy efficiency, demand response, distributed generation, ancillary service, and so on. The new natural gas markets. The program aims to build an open, dynamic, and competitive natural gas market by means of best regulatory practices, new regime models, internal offer will more than double in 10 years, more than $8.6 billion in investments by 2030. Demand is expected to grow 29% in 10 years. A bill was recently approved in the House of Representatives, and we expect to have it approved in Senate until the end of October. The new gas market initiative will open new opportunities for private investment. Let's talk about Petrograd's divestments. There is concerted effort at the National Council for Energy Policy in order to open up sectors which were monopolized by Petrograd. The company's program encompasses projects in a wide range of areas: natural gas, refineries, energy, fertilizing plants units, logistics, and others. By the end of 2020, up to $30 billion will be divested, half of it were divested until July 2020. Petrobras divestments includes 8 refineries that can process 1.1 million barrels a day, half of total Brazilian capacity. Brazil still depends on imports of oil derivatives. Petrobras divestments onshore program has already resulted in an increase of about 30% of oil and gas production. Mining is a primary input for the economy in general. Brazil explores 8 different mineral commodities with known reserves in 9,400 active mines. Exploitation in only 0.6% of the Brazilian territory corresponds to 2.6% of our GDP. We have launched a mining and development program which consists of 10 action plans focused on sustainability, geological knowledge, technology, investments, combating illicit practices. Mineral exports ranked second in our extractive industries exports. We exported more iron ore than oil from January until August 2020. Brazil's energy public policies are guided by 2 major plans, a 10-year and a 30-year plan, and we made the necessary adjustments to adapt both plans to conditions imposed by the pandemic. Currently, the 10-year plan is revised every year. The 30-year plan is revised every 5 years. When it comes to power, some of the most important conclusions of the 10-year plan are: by 2030, the number of residential consumers will grow 1.6% per year. Energy demand will grow about 3% per year by 2030. Wind and photovoltaic solar will represent 24% of the electricity matrix. Our energy matrix, which is now 47% renewable, will be 48% renewable, and our power matrix will be 84% renewable. There will be a 42% increase in small hydro units. Wind power will grow at a 106 rate. Solar PV at a 385% rate. In terms of oil, gas, and fuels, the 10-year plan indicates that, next please, indicates that ethanol production will grow from 34 billion liters to 47 billion liters. Biodiesel production will rise from 7 billion liters to 11 billion liters. Oil production of up to 5.5 million barrels a day by 2029. World's fifth producer. Pre-salt oil represents the largest part of oil production, 77%, ever expanding consumption of natural gas. The third-year plan focuses less on what our energy matrix will look like in 2050 and more on which steps to be taken so that we can reach our goals. Some of the highlights of the plan are a 10 gigawatt increase in nuclear power generation, which will decisively contribute to keep our matrix among the cleanest in the world. A 3-time increase in power consumption, with 13% of the domestic demand being supplied by solar and 10% of our car fleet electric. Production will reach more than 6 million barrels a day. As demand increases, we'll need a more robust energy infrastructure. Energy is the base for development. Upcoming opportunities for investment. Next, please. Some near future opportunities are, in the third quarter of 2020, we will hold the second open acreage bidding round. Next, please. In the fourth quarter of 2020, we will hold transmission lines and mining rights bidding rounds. In the first semester of 2021, we will have the Transboundary Water Project bidding round. And in the second semester of 2021, we will hold the Transfer of Rights Surplus Volumes bidding round for the Sepia and Atapu fields. In addition, we are taking the necessary measures in order to make Eletrobras capitalization possible, and Petrograd will follow its divestment program. The energy bidding rounds calendar for the coming years will be announced until the end of this year. To boost economic recovery and improve the business environment, we are updating our legal and regulatory frameworks, strengthening legal certainty, reinforcing our governance institutions, introducing more predictability and transparency, and designing our projects bearing in mind social, environmental, and economic impact approach according to OECD standards. We are confident that Brazil will build back better. We trust that we will experience a robust economy rebound based on careful strategic planning and method. After 6 months of social distancing and a severe economic contraction, the various positive economic indicators show we are in the right path to create an even better business environment for private investments. And we invite you all to raise your bets and increase your investments in Brazil in the oil, gas, biofuels, power, and mining sectors. Thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you very much, Minister Albuquerque. As the coordinator of the Investment and Infrastructure Committee at the CCBC, you can imagine how excited I am with all the great opportunities you showed to us. And I think the Canadian investors will be very optimistic and very willing to look at every single opportunity in the sector, in the segments you showed us. We will come back to you a little bit later with the questions, and without further delay, I'll introduce Hilton Nascimento, the head of Armstrong in Brazil, a company that has plants in 7 countries, very specialized in energy efficiency, cooling system for building, for hospitals, for malls, and we will talk about all the changes during all these recent events have the consequences in the market. So, Hilton, great pleasure to have you with us.
Okay, Bayard, thank you for introducing. I share my screen. It's okay. So, good afternoon for all. Okay, thank you to be here with us in this event where we are discussing the opportunities to invest in Brazil. I believe that we are in the most promising countries that we have today in the world to start in investing in infrastructure and the other sectors too. Okay, about the Armstrong, today we are global design and manufacturer and service provider for fluid and heat transfer solutions. Okay, our focus is in the energy efficiency in the systems that are installed in the main commercial industrial buildings, right? Our solutions are based on machine learning technology. Okay, this is the state of art of technologies in controls. And today we are working in different segments of the industry. Until some years ago, these segments, they understand only the mechanical design is the view as an optimization of the systems that we are changing this concept. We are moved the optimization for the machine learning technology. Okay. About our products and devices, industry leader with the next generation, that's intelligent devices that promote an intelligent platform for solutions that reduce the system-wide life cycle and improve the energy performance in fluid controls and the energy savings too. Okay. For a complete package, we provide to our customers individual equipments, package systems, complete utilities plants, and we have capabilities to supply a complete system for a complex building, right? That's okay. About our presence, I will do some corrections here that Bayard explained. We are not 7, but in 9 countries, because we are including here 2 plants for mining solutions, not only the building. We have now a company in the group, that's RMI, that's responsible to provide mining solutions around the world. Okay. Additionally, we have 5 sales offices that they are split in the 3 continents. The company was established in 1934 in Toronto. Today we have more than 1,000 employees distributed around the world. And Armstrong is included a special group in Canada that is the best managed companies in the country. Okay, due to our excellence in management our business. So about our competence, we have 4 competences that is split in heat transfer, fluid flow, demand balancing control, and digitalization. What's mean? heat transfer and fluid control, we provide the equipment that they can improve the comfort and the performance of the building. Demand-based control is a solution focused on the energy performance that we are saving and the energy to our customer to complex strategies and complex algorithms that install in our equipment. And the digitalizations is a solution where we can connect any building in any part of the world, and we can control and you can do adjustments remotely from our plant here in São Paulo or in Toronto or in Buffalo, United States, any Armstrong office that's established in the world. About Armstrong Brazil, that is more interesting to the investor that they try to understand what is Brazil. We established the company here in 2012, but the operational start was in 2015 when we started our industrial plant in Budas Artes, 20 kilometers from São Paulo. And this area has around 2,000 square meters. We have some pictures of this plant. We have the production area, that's the external part, and the office. Our product portfolio is similar, but is not the same that is offered by Armstrong in the other countries too. It was necessary to adapt our portfolio to the real necessities of the Brazilian market. Today we are offering him intelligent pumping system for HVAC. HVAC is heating, ventilation, air conditioning. And water distribution systems based on innovative fluid control strategies. These strategies are developed by Armstrong engineering team in Toronto, United States, and Brazil. Today, we have all capabilities and skills here in the country to develop these strategies. Additionally, we supply control systems to optimize the chilled water plants, and this optimization is based on machine learning technology, as I explained before. And at the end, we have a service package named the Performance Management Service that we can control the customer sites from our control center here and supported by IoT, Internet of Things technology, and using IBM Watson platform. Okay, that is one overview, the technology. And about our customers, we have the customer from in different size, right? Today we have a medium operation here, but it's not as limited to us to be develop solution for huge projects like airports, shopping mall, complex buildings, industrial plants, and exposition centers. Okay. And why Armstrong decided to come to Brazil? We studied that we have the potential of the country, and we define a goal. The goal is to supply the innovative solutions for pumping control systems to chilled water plants and water distribution and fire systems. Chilled water plants is the main source that to consume energy consuming in a building, because this is our focus to optimize this their functionality and to try to save the maximum in the energy to provide to our customers the best return of investment. This strategy defined to achieve this goal is becoming this new technology, the market reference on fluid flow and control systems through introduction of business concepts in designers and consulting engineers. Okay, that was the initial plan when we started the company. But what we found in the market environment, that was the, let me see one moment that I have, okay, it's better. So the market, the infrastructure market was focused on solution and not products. And at the beginning, we had only products. It was necessary to introduce a service business to be offering with these products to our customers to make available that the recursos that we install and provide the energy efficiency to them. It was necessary to invest in market education. That is mean to be preparing the market to understand the value added that our solution has. Okay, And another point that was has a significant influence to us was the exchange rate, because 100% of our parts are imported, and the exchange rate floating, that is normally has some results about our cost that we needed to manage to don't be losing the competitiveness when we compare with local suppliers, with local competitors, that they have local suppliers that are supplying in real. Okay. Another point that was worked in that was production acquisition made, but not by the end users, but the intermediate companies, that they don't have the vision about the value added, that the solution that we are providing. Okay. In this case, we create a new sales channel that we are now in direct contact with the end users to present our complete solutions. To achieve this result, was necessary to develop the performance contract business, where the customer pay the solution, pay the equipment with the energy savings. If the equipment doesn't provide the energy savings that is included in contract, okay, the customer doesn't pay us, okay. But initially we had some difficulties with this strategy, because in the other governments, the energy tariffs was receiving government subsidy for years, and the return of the investment was not attractive to our customers. With the new government, the reality was established that, and today we can save money, saving energy. We are not saving money only to pay with the country researches. Okay. Partner skills is the last item of our strategy revision, that we contact and develop the system integrators and service providers to support the new technologies. Because our country has continental dimensions, and it's impossible to be providing the adequate services from São Paulo to all parts of the country. Okay, that's and with these difficulties and this challenge, why we're still doing business in Brazil? Why we keep here our structure? Why we are here work and develop business yet? Okay, Brazil today has a GDP around 1.83 million. We are 9th positions in the world, and we are very close to Canada. The countries, they have similar situations in the GDP and the energy platforms and the other sectors of the economy. We have today 200,000 million population, 210 million, right? But the potential to include part of these populations in the consumer market is big, because they are not a significant part of this population. They have a limited conditions to be consumed, the goods to be invested in the economy too. So the potential to grow is huge in this case. Additionally, for the companies that have solutions to be applying the city's infrastructure, we have in country around 5,000, more than 5,000 cities that it's been as potential in different parts of the country to invest in the water treatment, energy systems, and roads, and trains in different scale of the economy, right? In the other sectors, only the overview. For the foreign investors, it's important to know that the automotive industry in Brazil has 31 different brands. That means 67 industrial plants. Brazil produces per year around 5 million cars. And this industry needs frequently improvements, expansions, retrofits. It's a very good potential for the business. And the same case, we have food and beverage industry with 185 large plants, 424 medium size, and 1,178 small size. The small size, it means that companies that has around 20 and 30 employees. Investments in the sector is around 11 billion in 2009 and more 10 billion reais in fusions and acquisitions. Brazil has today around 6,000 hospitals that need improvements, expansions, and new equipments, and they have access to the technology to be provided a better service to, right? So, and the shopping malls, they are around 563 shoppings with 100,000 stores in totalizing in these shoppings around the country. Okay, and additionally, we have 5,000 hotels, 2,000 universities. We are the second country in the world considering the number of the aerodromes. Okay, we have less only from the United States. The total cargo movement in these airports is around 1 million tons per year. But in the ports, we have a significant cargo movement that we are around 500 million tons per year. And in total, we have 37 public ports. And the main port in Latin America is here in Brazil, is Santos Harbor. That's in São Paulo state. And to conclude, there are some information about the resources that the country has under the soil. Water. Alto do Chão Aquifer is the largest potable reserve in the world. Okay, we have around 86,000 kilometers cubics in water. That is in the north region of the country. The second is the Guarani Aquifer, that is in the Middle Eastern region, with 45,000 cubic kilometers here in the water reserves. That is a good point to decide to invest in technology that we can keep and we can use this potential that the country has about the potable water. Water treatment and energy, I made a mention mainly because the government has the best information about these sectors, right? Like the presentation that the minister done before. And the other segments that is interesting to pay attention here in Brazil, to have a better understanding in the investments in the infrastructure, is the chemical, pharmaceutical, pulp and paper, cement, electrical, textile, steel, data centers, telecommunications, commercial residential buildings, heavy infrastructure. And about the soils research, we have the agribusiness business that is the most important in the world, fishing, oil and gas, and mining sector that is in touch and right. Okay, and that is my presentation. Okay.
Thank you very much, Hilton. What a great presentation. We a lot of opportunity to reduce the carbon emissions here in the country. You know, a big challenge to substitute diesel generation for solar, new LED lamps, solar plates, a lot of opportunities to reduce the carbon emission here in Brazil. With this, I would like to introduce Clovis Amorim, Senior Vice President of McCain Foods, the world's largest manufacturer of frozen products, potato products and appetizers in the world. 10 billion Canadian dollars in annual sales, 22,000 people, 52 factories, 160 countries. So Clovis, tell us a little bit about what we have here in Brazil for McCain.
Thank you very much, Bayar. Thank you as well for CCBC for the invitation. Ministro Bento Albuquerque and all other participants here. Let me share my screen. So I think I am the only one from the food industry here at this panel. So let me introduce first McCain. So Bayard told a bit about McCain. So it's a 63 years old Canadian company. So it was established in Florenceville. And today it is present in more than 150 countries. Okay. We have currently 20,000 employees globally, and as Bayard said, global sales of around 10 billion Canadians. Currently, we are the world leader in frozen French fries. So we can say that 1 in every 3 frozen French fries is produced by McCain. The company has very strong values, so and believes really in long-term relationships. So we are talking about our consumers. So we have good food. About our people, our employees, so good people, and about our suppliers, growers around the world. So we really believe that this is key to the success of the business. Good food, good people, and consequently good business. The vision the company has is to be the world leader in French fries and appetizers. And this is quite important to explain why we are doing business in Brazil. And admired by our quality, people, and customer focus. Here in Brazil, let's talk about Brazil. McCain in Brazil is established since the 90s, so it has 28 years of history. So after the economy was open, so in 92, it was established here. At that time, it was not common to have frozen products in the market. So it was, in the case of French frozen fries, was a pioneer. It is recognized by a high quality product. It has a dedicated team in Brazil since the 90s. We cover the whole country. So it's a relevant brand here in Brazil. So currently 30% of the volume of frozen French fries is produced by McCain. The others remains with 70. And in terms of value, amount of money, 38% of the market belongs to McCain. McCain is very well known as well as McDonald's, for instance, provider, French fries provider. So McCain has a 30% share in this market. And in the restaurants, chains, and independent operators, so 80% of the restaurant chains, they buy from McCain. And in the food service market, we have 30%. In the retail market, we have 19%. So it's present in all segments of the market in Brazil. Here's a few of our clients: McDonald's, Burger King, the major retail chains in Brazil, Outback, Habib's, Girafas, very well-known clients. And McCain has a complete portfolio to satisfy the demand of each one of these clients. So Brazil, it was very well said by everybody. So has a very has a very important role in the global economy. So for McCain, Brazil is also a top priority. And regarding the frozen French fries market, currently we are the 5th market in the world, but in accordance with our vision, by 2021, we will be already the 3rd market in the world of frozen French fries. So, which means 600,000 tons per year, okay? So we will be behind US and Germany by 2021. So it's a very important market for frozen French fries. So if you wanna be a very important player globally, you must play in Brazil. So because of that, McCain, since 2018, has been focusing a lot on Brazil. We have started the first huge investment in April 2018, where the company acquired 49% of Forno de Minas, a Brazilian company established in Minas Gerais that sells the famous cheese bread, pão de queijo. So this was a first step, and major intention here is also to globalize the pão de queijo, to spread the cheese roll in all over the world where McCain has business. Okay. So this was, and it's pretty much aligned with the appetizers strategy of McCain. Then the second step was to acquire 70% of a company based in Araxá that produces the preformed potato products. Okay, the name of the company is Seria. This happened in May 19. Okay, and finally, we were still missing an important step in terms of competitiveness in Brazil, because so far the local operations remain important, remain importing goods from Argentina and also from Europe, but it was missing a very important component of the strategy, which is the local sourcing. So as a consequence, we announced last year the first frozen French fries plant of McCain in Brazil. It's going to be in Araxá, Minas Gerais. And Elise said that last year there was a total investment of Canadian companies of around 12 billion Canadians in Brazil. And this year we are helping this level of investments with around $100 million investments in Brazil in our first frozen French fries plant in Araxá. So this was announced last year, and we have a very good news everywhere about this investment. And now we are already working on the construction. Okay, so and we are planning to have the factory ready by November 2021. So that's all from my side. So, and again, thank you very much for the opportunity to introduce McCain.
So thank you very much, Clovis. I think it's a fascinating product, and the diversification is doing good for your business, and becoming a local producer instead of an importer is what we want here, no? to grow the country. Just we have a few minutes only left. I'll have two questions from the audience for Minister Albuquerque, and I'll finalize with Elise. We're short on time. Minister Albuquerque, I really would like to hear from you. The new gas law is a fascinating development. The new natural gas law, as a citizen, very interested in the decreasing prices in gas that will bring. As the investor, we are fascinated. As you know, there are two big Canadian investors in oil, in gas pipelines in the country. And so we would like to hear from you. Can we expect a boom in thermal gas plant in Brazil to substitute the diesel thermals? Does this create an investment opportunity for gas pipelines in the country?
I am glad to tell you that before the pandemic, we had scheduled a bidding round to replace diesel power plants whose contracts are bound to expire by 2024. About 4 gigawatts in terms of generation. As I said during my presentation, I guess, the generation's bidding rounds are only temporarily suspended until we reevaluate future demands. We have established a committee in order to monitor the new natural gas markets, which aims at inserting natural gas in our power mix. This will open, as you said, new opportunities for investments in the gas flow coming from the pre-salt area, for instance, and from the Santos and Sergipe-Alagoas basins, as well as from onshore regions of the Amazon and the Northeast, as well as the south part of Brazil.
As a great expert in nuclear energy and plants, as you are, what can we expect from Angra 3 as becoming a very important source of energy, alternative energy for the country?
Angra 3 is expected to be fully operational in 2026. Works have already begun with resource from Petrograd. Until December 2020, until the end of this year, we'll design a business model in order to choose our partner who will help us conclude the works by the end of 2025. I'd like just to add an information that I consider very important. During the pandemic, Angra 1 and Angra 2 were very relevant in order to keep the power system stable. And this is the importance of nuclear plants for our system in Brazil.
We also are following the ethanol and methane market very closely, and there's enormous opportunity now in biogas and methane. We are seeing now some experience in methane from sugarcane to distribute gas for Congai. So how you see the future of ethanol and methane as a source of energy in Brazil?
Thank you for the question. This is one of the things I'd like to talk. Our program for biofuels is 50-year-old, as you know. It is a vital program in order to rank Brazil among one of the less polluting countries in the world, although we are the third largest consumer of automotive fuels and French fries also. Brazilian national biofuels policy is considered a model and a reference program by the International Energy Agency. Our international initiative, the BioFuture platform, gathers 20 different countries around one common cause, promoting bioenergy worldwide and turning ethanol and other biofuels into an international commodity. This is our goal.
Thank you, Minister Albuquerque. Since we don't out of time now, I will finalize with a question to Elise on a subject that everybody is very concerned and very focused today, which is ESG, environmental, social, and governance. And so, Elise, investors like us are very much concerned and focused on ESG as part of our culture in the country, in the companies. And so, what is the government of Canada view? What kind of advice can you give to a Canadian investor coming to Brazil?
Thanks, Bayard. I think that's great to start with, to say that companies this is part of their culture, because private sector needs to be involved in order to achieve those goals. So as you know, Canada is really committed not only to the sustainable development goals, so including those that are related to sustainable development in terms of environment, water, and climate change, but also in terms of diversity and inclusion and partnerships with the private sector. We're also strongly committed to our international engagements in terms of our Canadian private sector responsible business conduct abroad. So whether it's through the UN principle or the OECD guidelines or other elements of the international framework that promote corporate, social, and environmental and governance responsibly. So these are things that we certainly believe that in any kind of investment, whether in Brazil or anywhere else, quite frankly, whether it's in Canada or abroad, that should be considered increasingly, not only because the government is committed to it, but I think because it makes sense for the private sector to take those steps, and for their investor, for their clients, for the public image of the company. Actually, I was really glad to read this week that the market exchange here in Brazil has just created a new ESG index. So this is actually really interesting to follow that. It's a trend definitely that we believe will provide positive changes in investments generally across the globe. In terms of what specifically Canadian companies should be doing, we're more than happy to provide some advice more specifically to Canadian investors or Canadian business, because I think it's true for investors, but it's true also for any Canadian business who wants to do business in another country, to just understand, how to work locally, who are the partners that you should be working with, what kind of advice do you need. So maybe consulting the Trade Commissioner Service to understand that, but also our partners with Export Development Canada, for instance. I think we both have strong commitment to this theme, so we're there to help. I think there's also, it's also important, and not only for an ESG perspective, but just for business common sense, to do your homework, and to, before you do have this kind of commitment. I think the big investors like Brookfield and our pension plans of that process, really well developed internally with legal teams and a lot of expertise. But often what we see is like small and medium-sized companies not necessarily having the same level of understanding of the legal framework and what are the different elements and how can they avoid certain mistakes or missteps, and how can they make sure that what they do locally contributes to the social environment, to sustainability, and to good governance. So I think doing your homework and finding out a little bit more about who you're getting in business with, I think it makes sense anywhere in the world. So it would be true here as well. I think we also have a Global Mentors, a new program that the Trade Commissioner Service is offering, where small and medium-sized companies who are looking to invest in Brazil can have access to local mentors. And I think that's a great way also speaking with another company that might have that experience to understand a little bit more. So we have a certain view from the government, but I think having a view also from the private sector can be really interesting, and a forum like the CCBC and others can also bring that kind of mentorship experience. We're soon going to be releasing together, the Trade Commissioner Service and Export Development Canada, a guide on responsible business conduct and doing business in Brazil. So that will be a good starting tool maybe for some investors. But I think generally this is definitely a concern all over the world when we're looking at investing. I think even private investors are increasingly looking at that, like individuals who are, putting their savings into a pension plan or into the stock market. They want to know that their money is actually contributing to good things. And so I think taking that into consideration is definitely of great importance.
I think it's great to end our panel with ESG. I think this is a very important point for investment opportunities in Brazil, and this is going to be part of our culture. I thank all the panelists, and especially Minister Bento Albuquerque. It was great to have you with us. You're part of the Brazil that is going good, that is developing and with lots of opportunity for investors. Investors are very keen to look at your movements. You're business oriented, pro-business oriented, which is fantastic. We see your ministry as very much with an enthusiastic view of the opportunities you're shown. We believe you're doing a lot of good things, and marketing is a very important point that Brazil needs to emphasize in the future. And you're a great marketer. You really enthusiast us with the opportunity, and hope to see you around the world showing the good things that your ministry is doing and the opportunity of investments we have in this country.
Including at our virtual edition of PDAC this year. Hopefully again, we'll be having your participation.
And thank you for your team. Your team is doing a great job, and we look forward for these auctions. There's going to be a lot of Canadian investors looking at these opportunities, and keep doing a great business as you're doing.
Thank you very much. I appreciate all comments. And thank you very much also for the invitation and the opportunity to present the Ministry of Mines and Energy. I hope to see you soon.
Hope to see you a lot with our Canadian investors. And lastly, a thank for our great Brazilian ambassador in Canada, Pedro Borio. Always good to have you with us, giving us support and incentive.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Bye, Paulo. All yours, Paulo.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.